This is episode 360 of the Gold Squadron podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Will Ashland's burning me up, Hegwood, and tonight I'm joined by Marcel. Extended is better than standard, Manzano.
No, that's a resounding extended is better than standard, not like the enunciation that you use.
I put a question mark at the end of it.
Yeah, no question mark. Currently, it's 100% better than.
We also have Ryan. The pack keeps rolling. Stanzuski.
Woo! Keep the pack, wolf pack going.
Heck yeah.
Yes,
You guys,
the wolf pack are in the final four of the NCX league. We are facing off against the conference number 1 seed, 5 straight boost for a chance at the final.
Ooh.
The other side, we have the Order 66 versus the Coruscant Wanderers, I believe.
The Wanderers, yeah.
Yeah, the bracket on that side has been like utterly chaotic. Like ours was pretty much like, yeah, all the higher seeds move on forward. And the only quote upset we've had so far is when we beat the 3 seed, we beat the 2 seed as the 3 seed, which is like still a pretty close seeding matchup.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're facing the 1 seed, whereas like I think the Wanderers are like the 7 seed. But
Yeah,
they're also a team that like in the regular season, obviously they didn't pan out to be as high of a seed, but like I think didn't they have like the most first round draft picks in the NCX league? So like they're stacked theoretically.
in theory, they are.
Yeah.
So they're still doing well. I mean, the standard, the regular season we're talking about the Nickel City Draft League. Standard season is mostly for seeding, which is very important, but not the end all be all in the playoffs. So, last year, an away team won the whole thing. So, it matters, but not so much. So, exciting to see those upsets, though. Before, though, we get into our headlines, I gotta thank our largest group of supporters. It's our Patreons. They're what keeps all the lights on, keeps us going to events, and they even have unique channels on our Discord, even shareable art from our past projects. If you want to be able to help out Gold Squadron during this grand tournament season, you gotta check out patreon.com/Gold Squadron. Now, speaking of grand tournaments, I'll switch over to the announcement that they posted. AMG released a tournament schedule here for this season that did include updates for all 5 of their games. So a lot of this is in reference to Armada, Crisis Protocol, Shatterpoint, and Legion, but we do have some exciting X-Wing news here, if I can find them. They did release the prize information, bunch of participation prizes.
Let's talk about let's talk about that first. So I saw it. How much of this is new? Do we know, or how much of it was like World's Prize Wall?
Scimitar. I don't know what. I don't remember exactly what was on there. I know that there is a lot of foil cards, but I don't remember. They're saying scimitar foil, but I think they're trying to say. Oh, you know what? Because I was getting the full art ones, the full art Dooku, standard loadouts. I didn't get any of the foils, so maybe I'm not the best person to ask this. But a lot of these do seem very familiar, if I'm not mistaken, that they had first access to them at last year's Worlds. Everything between...
Yeah, Tommy is saying that it's the same stuff from Worlds in the chat.
Okay.
I wonder if it's different templates, though, different acrylics.
They are the same.
The same acrylics as well?
From Worlds, yep.
Oh, they actually shared pictures of it?
They haven't, but I think someone else did from the UKGE. That saw the prize table from the grand tournament that actually happened this past weekend, which we'll get to later.
Yep,
I mean, I think they AMG mentioned that most of the prizing being prize wall based going forward for this year, of events that they're going to be hosting was going to be stuff from Worlds Prize Wall propagated out to the rest of the events, and maybe some rotations throughout the year, some stuff in, some stuff out, whether it's from Worlds or new things. So we'll see. So if you didn't get a chance to go to Worlds and get the stuff, you have a chance to get some of it during GTs. So it's kind of cool in that aspect. It's not as fun for some people who did acquire a lot of this stuff at Worlds and are looking for new stuff at GTs. So there's a give and take.
Yeah, I mean, there's.
I mean, but that prize wall was enormous, though. No way everybody got everything from
For
it.
sure, yeah. Like I didn't touch any of those foils actually. I only got the SL cards from Worlds, the
Hmm.
buffer mat area, a
Oh
lanyard,
yeah.
and some dice.
I think I
Like
just
I
got
haven't
that.
gotten any of these foils, so I will be getting those foils.
Right. Yeah, they do have red and green glitter dice as participation, and even a pair of red and green dice, two each is what I meant by that pair of them. Of the, um, I don't know what you call them. I was calling them like dirty core, but they're calling
Is
them.
that like are those like the ones that look like the core set, but they have like a splatter of like
It's
Yeah, I'd call them
a
like a
little
marble
marble.
light, a marble light.
They are much brighter than like I did compare them side by side, and then the promo ones are like significantly like brighter than the core set ones. At least the green one is. Uh,
It's probably because like most of us haven't seen core set dice in forever. So
what?
because so many times like
I still I still bring core set dice to tournaments. Too afraid of
I haven't
losing
seen.
my valuable gems.
Yeah.
I mean the value is kind of.
They're valuable to me, sentimental
Marcel's
value.
sitting there with his giant bag of random
Yeah,
assortment of
well,
dice. So
Yeah,
brings a literal treasure
yeah.
chest of.
Well,
Uh,
I don't know about treasure chests. It's more like a downward spiral in the stock market, but they hold sentimental value to me. So that whenever the time comes for me to say goodbye to X-wing and purge all my stuff to make space for whatever other hobby comes up next, dice is gonna be one of the things that I just hold. That those are gonna just and they're easy to keep. So
yeah, and there's
yeah,
a
they're not going
there's a
anywhere.
lot of seasons where we didn't get dice recently. I think the last most like widespread one were like the what's it, the sparkle or the black dice that were.
I think the black dice were the easiest because those were the
Yeah,
hyperspace trials that were top 16. So they were like a little bit
Mm-hmm.
bigger than store championships, and so they're more accessible across the
Right.
board. And it was top 16, not even top 8 or top 4.
yeah. I mean, there was like
Yeah, but that was years ago though. That
hundreds of
was
those
that was
floating around.
pre-pandemic. But I'm trying to say that dice have been a sought after thing. So if you are looking to get some promo dice, definitely
Mhm.
available here for the grand tournaments. Of course, they do have the tool set and the template tray. If you can get into that top four or top two, and then of course a 24-25 grand tournament champion trophy for each event as well. So some pretty exciting stuff, even if we may have had it previewed to us before. Is there anything else on this announcement? Just locations, I believe. Is that right? And there, yeah, it just goes into the
Yeah, it's the
list
locations
of.
and dates, but
I'll scroll
we
through them
can.
for those watching, but it is an enormous list.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think it's better just to go through the map.
yeah, uh, they're spread out a lot of different places. Here's the United States ones, but it just keeps going on and on. I always want to touch because our maps don't have the
Yeah,
international ones, but I do
and I
want
think
to.
UK got the most, right? Like UK got a ton.
Uh, it's hard to count because a lot of them are like sometimes only single games, like Armada here, Crisis Protocol
Yeah, I think
there.
somebody was saying because somebody's mentioned that Europe got a ton, and they're like, no, let me check again. UK got a ton. Europe didn't
Yeah,
get. Uh,
US. No, good. This is me just counting what the links that I see, not specifically which ones are X-wings. So UK has 8, US has I think 13. Granted, not all these are going to have X-wing. Make sure you look at the list underneath these because what this original article post was for all the games, and they will tell you which games are at which events. Canada probably had the biggest boost in amount of events because they're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. They have the same as the US. So that's pretty awesome for Canada, to be honest. But also, there's places that I think never had official OP support before that have it now, like Chile, right? And
Yeah,
Brazil.
I think
That's
they did
awesome.
have one official like in the early heydays, but yeah, I don't think they.
Actually, never mind. There's two in Chile.
2 in Chile, a
Well,
couple in
well,
Bolivia.
to
Uh,
clarify, I guess there's two separate dates in Chile.
Events.
Sorry, there's three separate dates in Chile, but it's because each of them are for a different game.
Right.
So there's one for X-wing, one for Shatterpoint,
gotcha.
one for Legion.
But
So
they still
pretty
good. I
cool.
mean, that's good. It's been a long time, and then also Mexico got one.
Mexico
So
City with all 5 games at the
Yeah,
AMG Grand Tournament in Mexico.
that sounds
yeah,
very exciting. I like that.
Yeah.
We did have a. Let me switch over then from that. Let me pull up this graphic. Um, who just did you catch the author of this?
I know Matt Carey posted it. Let me see if he actually accredited if it wasn't himself.
Okay,
Nope. Matt Carey said I made a map, so Matt Carey
there
made
you
a
go.
map.
There you go. Big shout out to Matt Carey here. Made a little map. I know a lot of people have been using the Google Maps. I've seen a couple different GT maps, plus as well Timbo. Um, we have a special section on our Discord that gets you right to Timbo's map of all like leagues, events, and things throughout the entire world. So it's a great piece of reference as well. But hopefully, this, if you're just looking at North American events, this map from or this image, I guess, from Matthew Carey, really telling here about the diversity of these events. There's one up in Anchorage, Mexico City, out from Halifax, all the way out to Las Vegas. So really spread out all over the place.
One in Anchorage, Alaska.
Anchorage got
That's
one.
crazy.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that's
I,
really cool.
I like to see it.
Matthew Carey increasing the number of titles to his name beyond Iron Man. He's now cartographer.
Cartographer. I love it. Map maker extraordinaire.
Yep.
Yeah, these do have dates on them as well. It's what the numbers are in front of them. And it looks like most of them are for the fall, though. Las Vegas, obviously, in January. And it looks like a couple other ones are scheduled for winter time.
Yeah.
yeah.
Keep in
PAX
mind
on
this
Next
map
year.
is titled for X-wing only. So make sure if you want to attend an event and you might want to play multiple games, make sure that the event that you're looking at on said map it also has the game you might also be looking to play. Um, once it's so always make sure you double check the official post article by AMG to confirm what games are at which events. And for now, Australia and New Zealand do have a category, but they did not finalize their dates and locations yet. This is coming soon.
Yeah, what you said Gen Con?
Yeah, and Gen Con.
Yep, Gen Con was
Apparently,
not listed. We don't know why that hasn't either been updated to include it yet. I'm sure I don't see it.
But I mean, Gen Con's selling Grand Tournament tickets, so we can all but assume
Yeah,
that they'll be.
titled Grand Tournament. The TO running it says it's a Grand Tournament. Like,
And it's always been a
I'm
major tournament for X-Wing as well. It used to be the North
yeah.
American Nationals, so
It is
we.
set to be only one day, which some people are. That might be a little bit of a shock because they're used to like Gen Con was in the past 3 different days of heat
yeah,
of
and
Swiss
then the
rounds up to a
final. Yeah.
cut. But I think a lot of us kind of came to the conclusion like 3 days is probably more than necessary. We 3 days for just Swiss, right? Because it was pretty
Yeah,
light
three
every day
heats.
of that
Yeah.
Swiss
Well,
big heat.
lately it was pretty because back
Yeah.
in 16, 17, it was 80, 90 people per
Oh,
heat.
for sure.
Yeah.
But at this point, I think most of us assumed there probably would be like 1 day of Swiss or 2 days of Swiss and then a top cut. But we're actually down to one single day, just the Thursday for the whole event.
So
So
it's
I'll be
basically
curious to
just
see how
Swiss,
that
and
all shakes out.
whoever wins Swiss wins.
Yeah, could be just the Swiss day completely. I don't. Does the Gen Con actually post anything more specific about its structure for the entire day? I'll
That
go
I
look
don't
right
remember.
now.
I'm sure a lot of that would have to um, be based on player participation as well.
Yeah, but they have to reserve or they have to have at least a space for it.
Right. No. Still very exciting. And then, of course, this other map, while you're looking that up, Ryan, the other thing on this map that isn't listed is Adepticon in Milwaukee. That is in traditionally the end of March. It was a
Okay.
little bit earlier this year, but traditionally it's
Not
the
a
last weekend of
GT.
March.
It's
Technically,
Worlds,
not a
but not
GT.
yeah. So the price support is going to be hopefully better, but it's not going to be. You're not going to get this stuff probably.
No, and that's maybe why they're not listing it here. Maybe why they're not listing Gen Cons either, because Gen Con might have some maybe exclusives. Who's to
Oh,
say?
it's the GT. If it's a GT, it would have like the GT price support. I would assume.
I guess that's true.
Mhm.
But yeah, I forget to. You sent me another thing here, Ryan. Well, I guess I'll ask you. Did you see anything about Gen Con?
It's the Canadian
Yep.
Star Wars Grand Tournaments. So
So,
basically, just
under
list
the
of.
short description section of the X-Wing Grand Tournament for Gen Con, this
Mm-hmm.
event uses tournament regulations with full Swiss rounds based on attendance, no top cut. So it is just a pure Swiss.
Wow. Okay.
So just be the undefeated player.
They must have
Yeah.
limited space there. I know it's been an issue with so many
Well, it's
games. Um,
probably more so a timing thing, right? If they're doing this all in one, because the other part of it, like I think I think they might be considering is Gen Con's such a large event that people want to do things more than just play a single game for 3 or 4 days in a row. So
yeah.
the consideration may be if they can put it down all into one day, and who knows, it might be 6 rounds of Swiss. It just depends on the number of players. What's going to probably drive the amount of rounds of Swiss. But just
Makes
knowing there's
sense.
no top cut just means just play out your day. Do whatever.
I mean, man, they might just like play until there's an undefeated or something like that.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm sure they'll be posting a bunch of stuff because that's just about 2 months away. In the beginning of August. Now,
Yeah.
Gold Squadron won't be able to stream Gen Con, but we should be making plans then to go out to Salt Lake City on August 2nd. Those are in the works. We have a lot of the stuff lined up. Um, just little final things here, but we're all but certain to go out to Salt Lake. And in addition to that, we are making plans to go out to Nova as well. So both those are in August. Have those, like I said, trying to finalize those plans to get those out. We also traditionally
So,
go out to Las Vegas as well because Rio's just so nice. Maybe not
oh
nice
my
is the
god,
right word, but it's accessible. It might just be
that's a triggering word.
what accessible.
Ex- Yeah, because your room is apparently accessible in the middle of the night
Yeah,
to,
they.
to
I will.
people robbing you.
Yeah. I mean
Lock your door.
that's something you always got to consider, I guess. But
Um,
still,
so,
very
question.
excited.
Before we move on to the next thing, just
Yeah.
in general, I'm curious from you guys. Like, Ryan has his circle, like in Discords, and also his locals. I have mine, and William, I assume you have yours. Just curious, like what the reception has been in each of your circle for yourself personally, and then also in your circles. Just curious, like what's been the whole reception with not the
Um.
worlds, but with the GTS.
Sure. I mean, for me personally,
Hmm.
I'm very excited that it actually worked out. I was a little nervous with the small window and the pre-planning that would have to accompany it, but very excited that there is a lot of events, not only for Xing but for all of their lines, because I know there's a lot of overlap for players, and of course, you know, we live in the United States, so there's great to see a lot of those. And apparently, there's a lot in Canada, so might have to get a passport and head up there for some events. I would probably say is in my um, discussions I've been having, I think people are just as excited about them as they've ever been, but there's still that yearning for like a store championship level, and I think that's really what a lot of the, I would say, casual or less dedicated players are still looking for. They want that small tournament support because not everybody can go out to these big events, especially multiple in like a single year. So it is uh, disappointing we haven't heard anything about a potential store championships. I know there's some like rumors about it, but I think the overall, from what I've heard, is people are still excited to go out to these major events and get some table time in. They've also spread them out a lot as well, as far as like geographically and time wise as well. I was another thing that like worried me that like they would all be in like the fall, and then we just wouldn't have anything for like 4 or 5 months through the winter. But it seems for whatever reason pretty well spread out. How about you, Ryan? What do you think? Your thoughts on this?
Um, I mean, in terms of people I talk to, there's a mix of like, some certain locations. Oh well, initially the first hurdle, so to say, to get over was, oh, why no Gen Con? Why isn't Gen Con on the list? Is Gen Con not IGT? And then all that confusion a little bit, which ideally would have been um, a little bit clearer on AMG's part. Um, why it's not on the list, why it hasn't been reclarified, whatever it may be. There's enough people still asking the question that I think it probably needed to be stated or known in some capacity. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if AMG may have thought that like because it's already on the Gen Con board and it was like known and publicized in the Gen Con events when that went live that they didn't need to post it in here, or if it maybe not have been technically a GT at some point in time, but it was billed as GT for Gen Con, whatever it may be. As far as we know, Gen Con is a GT. Uh, and after that sort of Midwest sort of circles, I know my Michigan groups that I'm in were kind of bummed. They were some of the thought process from a lot of people, I think, across the board were like, oh, more GTs. Is this like maybe a little more regional distribution? Maybe it's like one GT every state or two, something like that, or populous areas. Like they kind of figured there'd probably be something in Michigan because Detroit, there's actually already an event called the Michigan GT, even though it's for other wargaming events, yada yada. So that one didn't get accepted, obviously, because there's not one in Michigan. And then when we look around and some of our guys are like, well, there's the closest thing to us is either 3.5 hours away up to Canada or 4.5 hours down to Gen Con. So they felt a little bummed that really nothing changed a ton for us locally. I would say that for sure because maybe some of them are just discounting the fact that Canada now has like two within about 4 hours of us. So that's two more than we didn't have before. It's just it's not staying in the states. So whether or not some people have their enhanced license in Michigan to go across to Canada or are willing to drive there, whatever it may be. And then some other pockets like I think a lot of the West Coast is a little like where's California, right? It's basically just the Vegas Open. There's nothing in the state of Washington or like Seattle area, which is where AMG is based. Nothing in California at all. So especially when that Golden State Games had done the World Qualifiers last year.
Right.
So at least in the U.S., there's some pockets of them that thought, there should be one or two more here or there. But we were never really, it was never really said where the additional pockets were going to be. Obviously, we see a ton more in Canada and in other countries that never had them before. So a lot of that allocation probably went to there just completely understandable in my mind. I think it's really cool that more countries around the world are getting events that either never had them or scarcely had them before. And the only events they did have originally were like kind of on the side supported, but not officially supported, where like maybe they get sent extra OP kits or whatever, or community comes together to send stuff down to other countries that don't get official kits. So good to see a lot of places that didn't normally get it, and then some places that had gotten qualifiers in the past, or maybe pockets of areas in the US or maybe in Europe that thought, oh, we have a solid play populace that they would get an event and they didn't. So I think it's yeah, it depends on what group you're in, where you're at and where you live and where you're willing to travel in terms of how you're gonna feel about it, to be honest. I'm kind of in the middle. Like nothing's really changed for me that much. I don't even know if I'm gonna make any of the Canada ones, and that's just because of timing, not because of like I don't want to. There's other things going on potentially during those dates that may not allow me to make one of those additional events in Canada that I'd
Wait, am I
try
hearing
to.
that Ryan is afraid of Canadians?
No, I've been up there already. I went up
What's
there
that?
last year for the Ewok or Forest City Open. That was a good time. Um, Shout out to GRXO, the team tournament they just had this past weekend. I was gonna go to that, but we didn't get a solid team together. I know it was offered to me by Timbo and others to like they had some other people, single players that didn't have teammates or didn't have teams, and they were gonna offer us like, hey, you know, there's someone looking for a team. Personally, when I go to a team event, I really like to have my team I can travel with and like just make it a friend group event, sort of travel up, do cool stuff, stay at Airbnb hotel or whatever, and just do that type of thing. So I don't know. I'm not against making new friends, but with team events, I do like having sort of a core group of people that I already know and be part of that team experience. But it sounded like the event went really well, so I hope they had a lot of fun. And maybe next year for a Michigan squad.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think for us, we're being in the Midwest, being in Chicago, we having a traditionally having a larger player base, kind of similar to like you get in the East Coast, like Maryland area, Virginia area. Um, we tend to have an above average player base or number of active players and number of active stores, and um, it's I think we've been William probably well, you probably hit the nail on the head. Is that we're used to having either whenever there's things going on, we're used to having either store championships or regionals or a number of things that are within distance that we can travel and commute to, and all of a sudden it went from many to just basically adapting on to Gen Con. And for me personally, Gen Con is just a no go anymore because I don't really play any of the other games or do any of the other activities that Gen Con offers or those conventions. I really just go for X Wing. And Gen Con, the badge itself is expensive. The hotels are expensive because of all the other components to it. Like if you're into board games and miniature games, it makes a ton of sense because it's just a ton to do. If that's your vibe. But if you're just going there for X Wing, it's just doesn't it doesn't make sense financially. Uh, for the same amount that it costs to go to Gen Con and spend there a couple days, maybe it would be different now because it's just one day. But traditionally, what it's costed, I could spend the same amount and just take a flight over to Nova and participate in Nova. And I would much rather fly to Nova or PAX and play there and stay at a hotel there versus drive 3.5, 4 hours and uh, drive back another 3.5, 4 hours and spend the same amount of money. So it's just not doesn't make sense for me. But again, for other people, it might. So yeah, I think I was mostly disappointed with just the lack of access to uh sanctioned events. I'm not even going to say GT, sanctioned events in the area when we're typically have had many to choose from. Like I think, again, you were talking about the black and red dice or the black and, well, they were black and something else, green, black and something. Um, yeah, oh yeah, they were both black, the black, red, black, green. But for example, that season, I think we had like 13 store champions that we could choose from. So there was a lot of in-person X-wing to within driving distance between Indiana, Chicago, and not Chicago, but Illinois and Wisconsin. So that's been a bit of a letdown, and also a little bit of I was I'm happy about the countries that are seeing support. Chile, you mentioned Bolivia, um, excuse me, Mexico. And I'm pretty sure there's other ones in Europe or other places that are getting support that traditionally haven't gotten support. I think that's exciting that they are getting um, access to some type of sanctioned event, some type of official event with official pricing. So I'm excited for that. Um, I am a little bit disappointed with, part of their, when they went to the to the GT in their write up, that long write up that they had, they were talking about making it accessible to people that, Worlds is exclusionary, not inclusion or something like that. I forgot the phrasing that they use. Like it's inclusive. I mean, it's exclusive. It's not inclusive, and opening it up for more people. And I thought the GT, by making it only be 32 people, that they were trying to make it more accessible and more like a regional championships where, larger stores or larger communities can get together. And it turns out that it was really more focused on conventions. So when they're focused on conventions, that means you have to pay for your convention ticket, and you're probably going to have to travel. So the same people that the same casual players that were not basically doing these grand championships and world championships are still not going to be able to do that because um, they still have to travel. They still have to pay convention tickets and stuff like that. So I'm I'm happy that there's something. I know that I'm gonna do it because I have the means and I have the desire to travel. So I'm probably gonna hit maybe two or three of these. I think we were talking before we started recording. I'm gonna plan to do potentially, I believe Nova, LVO, and I'm gonna try to do Mexico City. I would love to go play in Mexico City. So I'll probably try to hit Mexico City, Las Vegas, and Washington, DC. It's in Washington DC, right, Nova? Um, So yeah, I'll probably do those three. So for me, it's probably going to be about the same number of tournaments that I hit every year. But I think for a lot of other people, it's at least a lot of other people here locally, it's less official tournaments than they're used to. So they're a little bummed by it.
And it's definitely understandable, especially with the influx of events we've had in the past. But it's, to me, still good to see that we're getting official support, and all five games are still getting official support. So I like that. Um, it's kind of a strength in numbers. We all need to get these official events, um, and so that uh, well, we saw some of these grand tournaments where a lot of them are holding multiple game lines. Very is minority is that are only doing like one game for each event. So it's cool that if you do play multiple games, you can still go out and check them out. But yeah, still very exciting. We didn't really talk about. All right, you mentioned it just a little bit, uh, Marcel, but how Worlds is no longer invite only.
Mm-hmm.
That all of these events anybody can participate in, and even the Worlds then, and Adepticon, assuming as well that anybody can participate in them.
Yeah, and with the larger um space in Milwaukee over Schaumburg,
Hmm.
I mean, I assume the hope is that uh there's going to be more tickets, at least enough tickets, so that in previous years the reason they went to the invitation only is because of the how fast they were selling out and how upset people were that people that were considered really good players were not able to participate because they couldn't click the buy button fast enough,
Right.
or they couldn't win the raffle. So hopefully, with a combination of, to be frank, um, a lower participation in X-wing in general, a bigger venue, and an open format means that everyone who wants to Worlds attends Worlds. So that's the hope, that everyone who wants to can and does. So without having to go through that like basically set up 6 bot machines to hit the buy button as soon as they go on sale.
Yeah. So, I mean, probably for the better then, especially if we're able to account better for the amount of space we need for each player.
Yeah, I mean that would be great. Like a little bit more elbow space.
Yeah, luckily X-Wing not running those 6 foot tables, so we can pack in a little tighter than some of the other game lines. But
All
yeah,
right.
still
Anyway,
a
sorry for the.
no.
I was curious about that, but I know we still got to cover the GT that did occur this
That's
weekend, the very first
right.
GT in the books, and the very first GT winner announced. So let's cover that.
Yeah, let me get it pulled up here. Where was that
Yeah,
event taking place at?
in the depths of hell. I mean, England.
Close, not quite.
Either one. Where
Either
was
one.
it?
Either one. All right, let me get this out of here. Let me pull this up.
This cat is.
So very affectionate. So we see here. I got the bracket pulled up for the UK Games Expo, and we see here Tom Candlin. I never know how to pronounce these names. Cadlin. Hey, Tom takes the victory with an unsurprising list, you might say. 3 arcs, 2 Y-wings, and a Z. Never seen that list before, so
Is that basically? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the loadouts, but that is the world winning list, right?
I believe so. I
Uh,
was making a
it
joke about it.
At least the ships are the world. Maybe he might have a different loadout.
yeah, all the ships are the same. I'm pretty sure. The only thing
Yeah.
that might be different is if Slider had dedicated in both this version and the World Champ version. I think the ion
Slider.
cannon turret on both Y wings and the proton bomb and the ion bomb are the same.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty standard. It's really the what name Z and what 3-point upgrade you're putting on your Z. Is your
Yeah.
flexibility here. Tom went with Slider and Dedicated to fill out their last 2 points for their list. Also brought Tiny Rocks. As a note, bring your Tiny Rocks. They're better than the big gas clouds. I know you got arcs, but it's better than the gas clouds. Spread them out. Get those big arcs through. Where's that bracket go? Get those big arcs some lanes to fly through. Which, I mean, a hard fought tournament, obviously. So a lot of credit to Tom there. But with a list that we've seen be successful as well. Uh, so let's take a look
Yeah,
at.
and it was
Oh,
cut top 8. So
it
just
was the top
so
8.
yeah, so it was a 46 player event, or at least 46 contestants, and it was a cut to top 8 after 5 Swiss rounds.
Yeah, so let's take a look at who they faced off against. This is T. Reed, which
Tom Reed.
I was going to
So
say
That is
another
an
Tom.
old name.
yeah.
Now,
So are we going from 8th place, just reviewing the list, or
I'm starting from the top, working my way down. But yes,
Okay.
we're taking a look at the list. If you see something though, if you that sparks a conversation, feel free to jump
Yeah.
in.
Tom Reed was running basically the exact same list. Paul Heaver ran at Worlds, which was the
Hmm.
Raylan Gina Endor combo, the Endor Wedge, the Juke Keo, and Gemmer Sojin A Wing. I guess actually the only difference is his Keo does not have vectored cannons. Paul's Keo did have vectored cannons. Gemmer
Interesting.
comes with vectored cannons on the SL, so that one has to happen. Keo,
Okay.
because the SL had the vectored cannons, is not required to put upon her.
Hmm.
So there's at least that difference.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, still these B wings. I don't know how to fly them, but they are terrifying out on the battlefield. Double modded shots, bombs. Plus, you have Wedge out there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, 3 agility. And gets extra focuses. Very, very defensive for just an X-wing. So surprising that Wedge still makes it in lists over Luke. But I mean, I6, like the
A
defensive
really
mods
strong
that it can
I6
get.
gun.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't need your focus on offense, you still hit. You now have 2 focuses and a reroll for each defense potentially if you can get that. It's a trap working.
Wedge's defense can actually be on par with Luke's throughout the entirety of a game. I mean, the passive always having an eyeball to convert on defense is good, but then having the rerolls with Wedge and sometimes an extra focus even if you've used it on offense. I mean, it's he's just as hard to deal with as Luke. The only difference is Luke does have regen. Wedge does not.
True, true. And that attack speed, the free boost when they need it. Though granted, it's only forward. So I think the biggest factor has to be just Wedge with their I6. Very helpful in the meta. Fewer and fewer I6s out on the field with like Han being kind of taken down a notch. Don't have to deal with that. And FO has been running exclusively like Initiative 5s. I think really the only I6s Wedge has to compete with is like Vader and Soontir. I'm trying to think of maybe a Django. Someone's bold enough.
Jendon.
Poe as well. Oh, Jendon, that's true.
Jendon. Yup.
Imperial Aces they always had those big 6 out there.
Mm-hmm.
So cool, very very exciting, and again reinforces that those beams are pretty good. I don't know what they have to do. I don't know what you have to do to get them to work.
Yeah.
But we see here Ed
So
Gold.
basically, the
Oh,
final was a repetition of the semi-final at Worlds.
Yep.
yes, but that was Jorge versus Paul. I thought.
No, it was
No,
Oh,
Jorge
it was
played.
Illy
it
versus
was
Paul.
Illy.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's right. Jorge was on the other one. We had
I think,
Paul
yeah,
on
he played. What did he play?
on stream.
So
Hmm?
yeah, he played somebody else. I forgot. He played the other arc list, but it was arc on arc list.
Oh, it was an
Oh, it was
exact
Marco.
fight because it was
Yeah.
It was the Mace.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I believe, the other top
no
4 list.
Paul lost to Illy in top 4.
Yeah.
We're
The
talking
World
Jorge versus the other top 4.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
got
It's
Yeah.
okay.
it.
Small
But it
And
was
world.
the
actually,
other. Yeah.
Paul they were playing salvage too, so I think it was an exact rematch of the
Oh,
lists.
I didn't
'Cause
check
I'm looking
the
at the final, and it was salvage.
salvage mission. What a fun. What a list, or what a scenario to play in the finals. Well, it looks like we Ed Gold here running a very similar list. He's got Gina, Braylon, Luke. So that's your 554. All standard loadouts there. Of course, this is the Battle of Yavin. Luke. I always think that there's a Battle of Endor Luke for some reason. Obviously, there's not. He was
It's battle
busy
over Endor. Thank you very much.
over Endor, whatever. Uh, but yeah, so that's standard Luke. But Ed here, instead of taking the A Wings, goes with Y Wings. Evan Verlan, Gold 3. and whole Oakland, the standard loadout out of Boy as well. And this Evan brings an electro proton bomb. That's crazy. No turrets, no other
That is
upgrades.
crazy. Yeah.
The electro
It,
proton bomb, it has a range 2 radius, drops with a fuse, and it basically hits shields, ions, and occasionally a disarm potentially, but mostly just
yep.
hits you with ions and
So
shield damage.
when a ship resolves, so for people who don't remember what electroproton bomb, like actually how it resolves, because it's rare. See, um, let me pick it up so I'm not wrong. But I actually used to
Right,
know
by the
this
way,
by
when you
heart.
step back, you move away from your mic and the volume goes
Oh,
up.
sorry.
Yeah.
So the electroproton bomb, when it does detonate, because it does have to go down with a fuse, each ship at range 0 to 2 rolls 4 attack dice. Each ship loses a shield for each blank result, gains an ion token for each eyeball or hit result, and then is a disarm for each crit result.
So a lot of ion then should be called
Hmm.
electro ion bomb at that point, because
I
you're
wonder.
more
So,
like
like, I'm trying to think of the application of it, right? Because it's not like a like I've mostly seen it's still rare, but if I see electroproton bombs, it's normally on like an FO bomber because they have the speed to boost, drop it, and then move.
mm-hmm,
Why being slow. But Evan Verlaine can provide a little bit more defense for your friendly ships because she can spend a focus at the start of engagement to give a friendly ship at range 0 to 1 and an extra additional agility for the engagement phase.
correct.
Um, so maybe she's kind of just following, providing a little bit of support, and then because the problem is when the B wings make their first pass, it's really hard for them to get back around. So if they're in the middle of making their first pass, and even Verlaine drops that electroproton bomb, maybe it's harder for other ships to continue engaging on the B wings, giving the B wings more time to just do a blue move to clear and then do their turnarounds with the 2K and the one Talon to get back on target and
Mm-hmm.
try and mop up everything that's dealing with that electroproton bomb.
Yeah, I mean, a Hull doesn't have a bomb, but the two B wings have bombs as well, ion and proton bomb respectively. Um,
Oh yeah, you could definitely set up like Gina ion bombs someone, and now they're stuck dealing with the electroproton bomb
yeah,
next turn.
yeah, they can't escape it because they got hit by the unfused first ion bomb. Plus, I mean, I have to assume because of it's a trap. These at least Evons hanging out with these B wings, which giving Gina an extra agility. Like range 3 got a focus and an evade now. Plus you get, then you're with the Evan ability, you're having 3 agility out at range 3. Really, still packing a
Even
punch.
2 agility is pretty crazy for that B wing to have at that point, right? That's a lot of health on 2 agility
If you,
with likely an evade token.
yeah, the evade pushes it fantastically there.
Yeah. I mean,
And
I even considered it in the 3 point slot. I mean, it was further down the list because I did like the A wings like Paul had, but
mm-hmm.
I originally had considered a selfless Evan Verlaine to make it like it's super defensive, and then throw a bomb in there for on the way out type of thing too.
Sure.
So
And that's
it
I
was
think
it was on
the
the long list of
uh,
3 point options. It was definitely a consideration because of how much more it could help the B wing. It just doesn't
sure.
provide any additional offense or I mean very little in the scenario actions.
Right. My thought process is that uh, these young kids today they don't know about bigs when I'm making bigs references, but uh, either way, I think Evan's gonna provide that kind of bigs like effect. You're drawing aggro. You because you're the least defensive ship out there, that people want to just attack you because they don't want to shoot at a 3 agility B wing out there with a focus and evade. Heck, Braylon can get 2 focuses and an evade. So being able to draw that attention and now if you or with this loadout rather, if you don't take that bait of just shooting the 8 health Y wing right away, it really punishes you with that electro proton bomb. It is kind of weird though, because you would have to drop it, assuming you drop it the start of round three. You would move up, everybody would shoot, and then you would drop the bomb. System phase round three. So then it wouldn't explode until the end of round five. Is that right? No, the end of round four is when it would actually go off, assuming you dropped it round two then. So that's very interesting, especially in like scenario uh, actions where you have to, or sorry, scenarios where you have to do an action. Those ions are incredibly important. Locking people down to where they can't keep pressing the button, they might drift away from the assault. So it seems like a lot of control from just a little Y wing. And even, I mean, even if people want it to shoot at it, cool. Put your whole opening salvo into a 3-point Y wing. Like, I don't care. It wasn't Gina or Braylon, so no big deal. That's so interesting to me. In a world where we're stuck with these standard loadouts, I just love to see a just wild card thrown in there. Uh, Make people think twice. You know what I mean? To me, it screams like you ever buy a new ship and you go to play it and your opponent's like, I don't like that thing. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna just destroy it first. I feel like this has the same kind of thing. It was like, I don't know what's up with that electro proton bomb. We're just gonna take it off the board before we had to deal with it, before it can drop it. But still, it's a way to uh, have these kind of these B wings get through that first engagement, because it's not like your Gemmer's out there tanking a whole round of combat. Hopefully not. Hopefully your Keo's not being shot by every single ship. So these Y wings kind of add a new twist to that, which I'm in on. I like the Y wings.
Actually, you want your Gemmer or your Keo to take every single shot
Really?
and ignore your B wings.
I mean, either like you do you though. I thought they always came in on the flank to just try to pull like one or two shots out of the first
No, well,
engagement.
even better if their entire list is trying to point at a flank and ignoring
True.
your main force. Like, okay,
Interesting. So maybe
congratulations.
the same way of doing it, just a little bit different. A little different.
Yeah, it's a different carrot. They're you don't want to shoot them because they're 2-point ships and you can probably kill them later. But
Right.
you also, on the other, yeah. So, but you also don't want to ignore them because they're going to collect points, and then they're going to, once they're getting the scrum of things, there's going to be bombs and there's going to be unhappiness.
Right. Still, I mean, an amazing job for Ed here. Gets into the top four. Our other top four player was Sith Taker Tim. He's flying the Galactic Republic. No arcs though. I believe this is the 7 ship. I can't count right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ship.
Right, which is, I think, what he flew at Worlds exactly.
Did he not have? I thought he had Anakin. I know they've been bouncing around between sneaking Anakin in there or not.
Well, I don't
Oh,
know if
this
it was, but
no,
it,
it wasn't, because this has Killer in the Z95. The only 2-pointer is Boost with that dedicated. This also has Killer, who is a 3-point Z95, a commitment. But this one has Marksmanship, Dedicated, Jamming Beam, Synchronized Console, and Concussion Missiles. I gotta look up Killer's ability. Is it they get an extra damage die when the opponent is like Gideon, right? They get an extra die when the opponent's damaged. Is that right? Or when they're like less
or
than two
I think
hull or something like that.
when they have, I don't know,
I
better
don't
to
know how
bring it
it's
up.
worded. I know it's when they're hurt. While you perform an attack, if the defender has 2 or fewer hull remaining, that's what it is. You may roll 1 additional attack die. If you do, gain it 1 deplete after rolling attack die. So that's a potential 4 dice concussion missile. Very cool to see there. What else do they got on this squad? Contrail with Swarm Tactics, Synchronized Console, and R3. That might be a way to give Killer a modified or a double modified attack when you throw the lock over to them with synchronized console. Click also is rocking R3 synced and dedicated, though his locks are traditionally on the friendlies. We even have Oddball in the V Wing, dedicated, plasma, synchronized, and ESC for this loadout. So again, that synchronized console Contro could instead give the double modified shot to Oddball. And if Oddball doesn't need the lock, you could then give it to Killer. Normally, the synchronized console, when you move the lock, it's only range 1. But if you're giving it to somebody who also has synchronized console, you can give it up to range 3. So really wide spread utility for that. Then, of course, we have Axe and Kickback. Contra actually might be boosting Axe up then as well. That's another combo there too then, right? After Axe shoots, they can give a target lock. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a side arc at range like 1 to 2 or something. They can give a friendly ship a lock. Check that.
After you perform an attack or defend, actually. Oh no, that's regular Axe. We gotta look
After
at.
you perform an attack, you may choose another friendly ship with the Born for this ability at range 0 to 2 in your side arc.
Okay, so that would be only for Kickback. Still though, I mean, Contrail can boost up Axe, give Kickback a double modified Diamond Boron, and then could give their lock to Killer or Oddball so they can get a double modified attack as well. Really, a lot of synergy in this kind of swarm. So it seems very difficult to deal with, especially if you can utilize that Born for this from the torrents to keep these V-Wings alive. That's been one of my favorite combos, is that you want to take locks with your V-Wings, but you kind of need some sort of modifier on defense. So between a little bit of dedicated, a little Born for this, and keep them alive pretty well. Very intense squad. Who did they end up losing to? Oh, well, they lost to the B-Wings in Assault.
B-Wing.
Interesting.
Yeah, the bombs and the single target damage can be pretty high because, I mean, as an example, Wedge Advanced Proton Torpedo doesn't get affected by click at all. It's still going to happen. It's not range based additional
bonus.
type. Yeah. Same thing with Gina's shot. Obviously, it's a proton torpedo, and you know the only thing would be shots going into them from range 3 click could affect on the way in. And there's a good chance that because the dice amount is high enough where you're throwing out 4 or 5 dice at a target 2 or 3 times a game, because Wedge's advanced proton torpedo, Gina's proton torpedoes at least 2, and then maybe Gina gets a second protorp, or maybe Wedge gets a range 1. And those are generally well modified shots to the point where they're going to push at least a damage or 2 through, just because they overwhelm the 3 green dice.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense to me.
Or also, I mean, the torrents are still pretty viable targets. They're slow. You're going to get them eventually. That's going to probably be the most common 6 points given up in that Republic list is from those 2 torrents.
And I mean, they're
After that,
tossing evades around, so
Yeah, maybe get the support ships out of there first, then deal with
Yep.
The 2 agility headhunters, and then
Yeah.
maybe
I actually
find time
had
for those
a
I-5 B-Wings.
my matchup from this past week of NCX was against a 7 ship Republic, very similar to this. Not the exact loadout decisions, but it was definitely a situation of, oh, if I try and go at anything that's 3 agility, it's going to just evade most of everything because it has shared tokens everywhere. I should probably try and kill the 2 agility things, especially the 2 agility things that are the ones giving the tokens to other stuff. So, priority target, kill the torrents.
It's a smart game plan. Hopefully, That's what they. Hopefully, that's what they were trying to avoid to get them into the top four, but alas, couldn't get into the finals. Let's keep moving on here. We got we have exactly four more lists. So let's pull up Ollie's list here. Another 106th Squadron pilot. Went undefeated in Swiss with the First Order. Let's see here. We have Major Von Ray, the I-6BA with Mag Pulse, Deuterium Power Cells. That's the thing that heals you. And Crack Shot. Very interesting. Ember, the 2023 World's winning Ember with Elusive and Lone Wolf. Commander Malorus with that Mag Pulse Warhead. Midnight with Power Cells and Marksmanship. I don't think I've ever seen anybody put Power Cells on Midnight, but that makes a lot of sense to me. And then Quick Draw, Special Forces Gunner, Pattern Analyzer, Swarm Tactics, and Proud Tradition. Love that Pattern Analyzer, Proud Tradition, hard ones, 3 sloops. Now you can get Focus Lock very effectively. Super cool. I would assume Swarm Tactics seen up Ember, but it could also, I guess, be Commander Malorus to start the attacks with the Mag Pulse missile. Potentially.
I'd probably assume it'd be Malrus as well, because I don't know if getting Ember up there beyond just letting her shoot early.
Yeah, maybe don't joust with Ember.
Yeah,
maybe don't
Ember
put
might be a
Ember
late game,
next to
like
Quick Draw.
Like Ember and Quick Draw could converge in the mid game on a target, so that when in the scrum of it, Ember has an opportunity to offer an initiative kill from Quick Draw. But I would assume on the approach, first engagement, you're seeing Malrus being the one kicked up to I6 with the Mag Pulse.
Yeah, especially with Lone Wolf, you're not going to. I mean, yeah.
Try not to joust. You're the wide.
Well, not only try not to joust, he's not hanging out around buddies. He's loning, wolfing around. I am surprised. I mean, there's First Order has so many 4-point options. Ember is probably number 5 or 6 on my list that I would reach to. There's other ones that Nightfall. If you got a Swarm Tactics, Nightfall. The other guy that Whirlwind, especially if you've already got a Swarm Tactics carrier, so you have 4 ships shooting at I6 with one of them having 1 million tokens. I mean, also the other ISF, what is it? The Hughes. The Hughes is another, with barrage rockets is another popular one. So, yeah, Ember is an interesting choice, but I can also see if he's using them as a flanker and just elusive Lone Wolf, the ultra defensive out in the flank. So
just taking depletes for bear rolls and hold on to evade tokens or whatever until you're ignored long enough to where you can hard one and focus lock, take the string. That's the tricky thing about these TIE BAs is that you have to keep the pressure on them, or else, or if you leave them without pressure, they can really punish you with highly modified attacks. I would imagine both BAs are out on the wide, and then you kind of have a jousting block of Malorus, Midnight, and Quick Draw. Maybe Midnight's not exactly jousting, but I think you know what I mean. Heading towards the center, if you will. Still, very interesting list. Love looking at these First Order, and some interesting upgrade choices there as well, with the power cells and a couple other things. But First Order doing First Order stuff, right? Jamming, shooting Mag Pulse, being high initiative. All checks a lot of the boxes, you would assume. They faced off against Tom, which always a problem for these FO squads is those big arcs. And let's see, looks like they played in Chance Engagement as well, which I think is probably a toss-up for these two squads.
Yeah, I mean, because the defensive nature of Pulse being able to
Mm-hmm.
kind of neuter one of the shots, and then the defensive nature of Ollie's list. I think Chance Engagement is probably the one that gives you the best opportunity to beat that 6 ships Republic.
Yeah.
Potentially that one, or also like no, I don't even. I was gonna say carrying
Oh yeah,
boxes,
salvage.
but probably not so much.
No.
Maybe that one's even. It's just because it's so easy to knock off the crates from
Yeah.
the arcs, but they they can also like delete you if you're not rolling or moving.
Yeah, I mean Von Reagan, Ember do not want to be holding boxes. So, um, yeah, still very interesting. Like I said, one undefeated in Swiss, so something must be working with this first order squad. But let's take gander at the last couple lists here, and we'll move it on to resistance. Yeah, well, you're not probably flying 4X-wings in in Rebels. This is a resistance squad from Ham Demoka. I don't know how to say that. Hamdam over here. This is a resistance squad. We got Ray, Heroic Rose, Novice, Technician, Finn, Engine, and Ray's Millennium Falcon title. Classic build here for Ray with that, adding blanks and the Heroic. This is Trigger Happy Poe, full of 7-point Poe, Heroic R4, Proton, Overdrive, integrated Black One, and Magpulse warheads thrown in there for this Poe Dameron. 2 different munition types, which I'm surprised to see. We also have Chorus Caplinum with dorsal concussion, wartime, and Shaza, another 3-point Y-wing with dorsal concussion and fuses. I've seen this kind of archetype quite often pop up, especially in Europe, where they're running the 2 7s and 2 3s for the resistance. I'm so terrified of putting this 7-point Poe Dameron on the board. But apparently, if you could fly it, man, you could really get some work done.
Do all the cool moves. It's got overdrive thrusters and Black One. Pick your ship up, put it down somewhere else.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and I mean, I feel like a lot of this is on the Y-wing play, being able to draw aggro away from Ray, drop those bombs when you need to, get some key blocks to prevent people from, like, say, chasing your more expensive ships. And then, of course, you do need time on target as well, right? Like, and Ray and Poe
Yeah.
could just delete a ship if they both shoot at it and things go well enough.
But also Ray can just show up and get deleted herself too. So there's definitely some
Yes.
nuances to play this list like any list, obviously. But when you put so many eggs in 2 baskets essentially with the 7 point ships, you kind of need to be on point with your approach with each of them. I recall there was a matchup a friend of mine had at Worlds that they faced off against this list. It might be some loadout variance variances versus what exactly we're seeing here. But when they went up against it, they were flying a similar list to Paul did at Worlds, the Rebel B Wings, X Wing, 2As. And they were getting ready to line up there, like, all right, Ray's coming down this way. I'm going to set up my B Wings to make a pass, type of thing. Probably do a ton of damage. And the Ray surprisingly just like 3 slooped the turn before the engagement was probably going to happen and just started like working her way back around the board, finding another way around to like get back in the list. So like finding times to decide to keep your Ray sort of in check and knowing where and when to engage can still be very key to playing this list.
Yeah, it's definitely uh, high skill, high ceiling list is to see it make it all the way into the top 8. Taking a look at what knocked them out here was Sith Taker Tim's 7-ship squad. And I could definitely see how that matchup could have gone, where Ray and Poe are shooting these big shots, but into like some 3 point ship, right? And they're just deleting whatever is in front of them, whatever it's a Y-wing array or whatever. So challenging matchup for the resistance there. Let's see. Do we got another one? I forget what number that was. Oh, we got two more. Ryan, why don't you take this next
More.
one? I've been reading a lot of them.
Yeah, that's right up my alley. Speaking of resistance, we have sort of our traditional 5 ship resistance we are kind of accustomed to seeing. We have Just Pava with R2D2. We have Vanessa Doza with Barrage Rockets Marksmanship. We got Snap with his R68 and HLC. Got Elo Asti with M9G8 Heroic Marksmanship. And then Zori Bliss with not Plasmas, opting for the Mag Pulse Dorsal Marksmanship. The kind of cheeky thing with this is since Zori has marksmanship and people forget Wartime Loadout has an ability, if you have when you are attacking a opponent that is in your bullseye with a missile or torpedo as the Zori Bliss pilot and having wartime loadout, crit results are not cancelable by evade results. So if you have a mag pulse and you have marksmanship, that's an auto hit. Basically, the mag pulse is going to happen. Nothing you can do about it. But it's also getting a Y wing to get a bullseye on something. So it's not like you have the ability to reposition and get a lock. You'd have to just kind of get your bullseyes on target that you're going for. It's more of a bonus thing, but I know when I was considering even previous versions of Zori, the guaranteeing a plasma torp to hit is just guaranteeing 2 damage. So I had thought about marksmanship on Zori in the past as well because of
Mm-hmm.
wartime. So it is interesting to just say, hey, if you're in my bullseye, this mag pulse is going to hit you as long as I have a single hit in any of my results, because then I can in bullseye turn it to a crit with marksmanship.
Yeah, just roll a hit or a crit on 3 dice, and that's basically the end of the attack. They just take it then. Very interesting to see leaning in to that wartime. Is that like a meta call you think, or is that just a fun trick getting the mag pulse out there
So I
over the
think
plasma?
the interesting thing about this is like usually right now, Zori would have to choose between R4 astromech or dorsal with plasma when you would take.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're opting for dorsal. Going the mag pulse route didn't even allot them. They didn't even take the R4 astromech. So it was interesting to see how they could have taken both dorsal and R4 with the mag pulse, I believe. Just double checking the total here because right now, being that you can take plasma and a 2 point thing means it has a 9 point loadout available. And the loadout amount they used was mag pulse at 4, dorsal 2, and marksmanship at 1. So that's 7. They actually had 2 available to use.
That's wartime.
Maybe it's just not in the builder. Oh yeah, wartime. Duh.
Wartime costs 2 points of loadout.
Yeah. Well, let me double check Zori then, because I know.
Yeah. No, you have it right. You have 5 points for a munition and 2 points for a droid or turret. The problem is that the cheapest munition is only 4. So like unless you're not bringing a munition, which seems kind of like a waste on your i5 double action ship, you really don't have too many other options other than that.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's where my math is messed up. Plasma's 5, not
Right.
7. I don't know why I said 7. I thought, well, that's what plasma probably used to be at some point.
Probably. Still, I mean, these are all pretty classic builds here, except for maybe what Elo utilizing the M9G8 to what lock Doza, I assume. Then everybody else kind of gets rerolls on
um,
their own.
I would probably think Doza because the M9G8's on any attack, so it's can be secondary or primary.
Mm-hmm.
So that would make sense to me because Jess doesn't need it. Temin theoretically shouldn't need it if other stuff gets bullseyes.
Right.
Zori's just trying to hit a single mag balls. Like, I don't think we really
Right.
care about locking her.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Elo locking Doza seems to. That'd be my assumption.
Makes sense. I love everyone's got a different take on their LO loadout. I love how it's never been set in stone. We saw a lot of swarm tactics in the past to bump like Jess up, um, but now here Mark
Yeah,
has you.
Aerospheres, crack shots, HLCs. Yeah, Elo's very flexible.
Oh yeah, has that just perfect amount of loadout to really get some valuable options in there. So I like that's pretty scary. Um, I was wondering. Oh, that's what I was going to look at. Let me look at one other thing here. What all did they face? I was wondering if they faced any decimators. Ooh, they did get to face against a ghost and a gauntlet and a decimator.
Oh
So
god, get those bullseyes lined up.
yeah, I'm sure they were real happy about that Magpulse Zori choice.
Did they lose any of the games that they played against
No,
bases?
no, they won all three
Okay,
of those
yep.
games to get them into
Kind of
the elimination rounds.
checks out. Yep.
Made the right choice.
Zori's just gonna say no.
In hindsight, yeah, we're like, oh no,
um,
whatever you have on that thing, no thanks.
it's interesting to look back at the mission points total for these players here. That uh, our eventual winner had 101 mission points, which is the same as Marcus here, who ran this resistance list. And we had the previous resistance list we talked about had the lowest of the top 8 with 69 total mission points. So we had a wide range of like. Now I don't recall if these mission points are
These are not for
in-
Swiss, or sorry, these are not
include.
for cut,
Yeah,
because
so that's
this
that's a
ladder
big
only counts cut
discrepancy.
games, or doesn't
Yeah.
count the cut games.
There is one player who went 3-2 that actually had the highest mission points at 106, but only won 3 games. Wow. Those all
Barbarian.
must have been tight games at close to hitting 20 in each of them.
Big wins, yeah, big wins and tight losses there. All right, well, we got one last list to go through. This is Goro, and he's rocking a Galactic Republic squad: Jag, Oddball, Wolf, Broadside Matchstick, and Boost. So very similar to the other list we were talking about. Staying on um, meta, if you will. We're utilizing the three arcs, and we used to see two 4-pointers with them, but now pretty much everyone's solidified the two 3-pointers and the one 2-pointer, whether it's Y wings or arcs or torrents. Excuse me. All valid options here. Goro went with Boost, with Deadeye, Marksman, and Synchronized. What do you think about that loadout?
I think that's actually kind of interesting. I mean, I know the normal is to go Predator. I don't know how much you're gaining by synchronized console being there. I know one or two of the arcs have synchronized, so I mean, some sharing there.
The
Jag.
normal Predator on boost. I thought the normal
Yeah.
was expert handling because you want to be able to move, barrel roll, and then still be able to boost at the start of combat just to get ultra
Oh,
I,
I mean
I've
that
always
that's an
seen
option too.
I've always seen Predator dedicated, but I like that. I
Yeah,
like that expert handling.
I,
yeah. I've
I, I
always
do
seen
like
expert handling.
having. I'm starting to like Deadeye Shot a little more on stuff that has better opportunities to get bullseyes,
Mm-hmm.
but generally don't have actually that high powered of shots. Like an example would be Hera A Wing. Granted, that's earlier in combat, and if someone is damaged in sort of the mid scrum, she can opt to just say you have to expose one of your damage cards, which I6 can be a very cascading effect depending on the damage card that's being exposed. Whereas Boost
Mm-hmm.
could take advantage of it later because it's more likely in the earlier engagements that something is getting damaged to hull with all that other shots coming from the arcs, and then Boost throws in a crit that they have to deal with in future rounds. Um, but also, Boost can shoot before Jag, so you might be
Yeah.
able to get an extra crit in there. Like I mean, imagine flipping up a structural damage and Jag is you have to shoot you.
Well,
Very bad.
Jack is who I was gonna say. That's who has the synchronized console. So Boost being the
Hmm.
same initiative as them, they can really be doing some lock shenanigans. Either, uh, or basically, Jag can shoot and then throw the lock over to um, Boost.
Yeah.
So,
Lessening the need for the predator, right? Because you're getting
hmm
the block anyway. So that's yeah.
exactly. I think Broadside's
If you
thrown
don't
in
end
there
up,
too, so you could shoot like Jag, then Broadside, and then Jag gets the
yeah,
block back. Oh, but you had to shoot to pass it though, don't you? Yeah. You had to shoot and choose not to use it to be able to pass it with synchronized.
correct.
Hmm. Okay. Still a lot of flexibility there for when you need it. And I still like people going. I like how it's still not decided whether uh, which Z95 is technically better or more preferred. I still like seeing the toss ups there. But ooh, these Republicans got a lot of beef. What did they end up losing in? Chance engagement to Tom Reed with his B wings. That was would have been a tough matchup for both of them there. I would assume it
Probably
would.
giving up a lot of points on each side. There's a lot of damage being dealt.
Yeah. I guess all these top 8 games went to Chance, obviously, but still. A bloodbath is what I assume. when anytime these Rebel B-wing lists match up against Arcs, bloodbath. More so much red dice getting rolled there. Heavily modified ones too. So yeah, very exciting. We got the first grand tournament in the books. Our first official winner of one. And what would your guys' kind of takeaways from from glancing at these top lists? Any
Um,
any opinions on the
well,
squads?
I would say this is the main opinion is we're basically still in the same evolution of what happened at Worlds. It's the first GT after Worlds, so we'll see how other GTs kind of divert from it, but
Mm-hmm.
without any point changes in the horizon. Um, I would say pay close attention to this because it's definitely the top two worlds list, but also just in general, just the arcs in general, um, the arcs and the Republic in general. You're going to see a ton of it, so you have to be able to deal with it. So you're going to have to be able to deal with them, and you're going to have to be able to deal, um, with the B wings. And for the most part, I think beef, beef and survivability is the beef and survivability is really what you got to have in order to be successful consistently. I think a gimmick can take you a ways in a tournament, um, but for the most part, yeah, uh, just beef and uh, predictability that's gonna get you the most way. No, but what do you guys think? Or your takeaways?
I mean, you better have a plan against Arcs and B wings for sure. Better know how to match up against them if you're not going to play them. Even if you do play them, you better be ready for the mirror match because I'm pretty sure plenty of these Republic lists played against each other, and plenty of the Rebel lists played against each other.
The Rebel
Um,
ones I think could be interesting, but is there a more boring mirror match than six ship
the,
arc versus six ship? I mean, six
oh,
ship
the
Republic
Republic.
versus six ship Republic.
I haven't done that matchup. I don't really care to myself.
It just
Who
does
I
not
you,
sound. It just
wants
does
to
not
see
you
sound
it?
like an enjoyable game.
you'd have
It
to
sounds
Well,
ask the
like
Republic players. It sounds like a question for Jorge because
yeah, 'cause
he
it
was
sounds
there in
like
the
it's just
finals.
very. It relies heavily on initiative variance and on just the dice.
Road.
I don't think positioning has as big of an impact in that particular matchup. There's probably a few choices here and there that make a significant difference. But for the most part, it's a very
I mean,
very
I would actually argue
clunky and
the
dry.
I would actually argue the opposite, that it probably benefits the person who has that round zero deployment strategy perfected, that you can
Yeah,
then get all of
I
your
don't.
ships engaging correctly.
Yeah, I don't. That's the whole thing. The initiative does change a lot of that. Maybe in that first engagement, but once you're getting in with, let's say 5 or 6 medium bases, and those 5 or 6 medium bases are going to be creating a lot of bumps, a lot of self
Yeah.
bumps. Who is able to guarantee that they will be having tokens because they're not being forced to
Hmm.
self bump and stuff like that. And also, on top of the way, because there's other mirror matches that have like that similar dynamic where the variants of road rule and they can also be very variance heavy. Particularly the reason I say this is a very uninteresting match to play in, and one that I would not enjoy playing in, is just the amount of physical space taken on the board. That it's just a lot of bumping, a lot of like, yeah, just like in general the bumps. There's a lot of variance involved, and it's not a fluid game. It's a messy game,
Hmm.
and it's just
Definitely be
clunky,
very
and
messy with the bumps.
yeah, and just getting, and me myself, not being able to do bumps good, just because, with my hand I can't really do that. Just the idea of having like a judge there, you know doing every second move for me, it just doesn't seem like a very enjoyable
Yeah,
um,
I would
game.
defer to players who have played the list with a lot more time and experience to ask them their thoughts on how that matchup like generally has to go, the things you need to set up, prepare for, the nuances of it. Um, Again, I'll say I wouldn't be too thrilled to play that mirror match myself, but it's more so just probably because I don't have a full understanding as to maybe some of the aspects and nuances of why it could still provide um, a or what I can do to master that in a way, so I can still have
Hmm.
an advantage. Because that's what that's what I would do, is try and find the best ways to gain myself as many advantages as possible. That's what still would interest me in mirror matches. And those, it's not always throw up smash each other and see what the dice say, but sometimes those games do happen. The only other conclusion I can draw is no one wants to play Separatist because no one did at the
Uh,
KGT.
yeah, I was trying to
Scum was
find
played.
some.
Every faction was played except Separatist.
Yeah, I saw some interesting scum squads in there, taking advantage of the jump master. I did want to shout out. This is P Man Tuctillo. I don't know. People got great names out there, but P Man out here utilizing a oddball wolf jag, makes sense, but combines the two 3-point ships into a single Bo-Katan Yoda. With that's the only upgrade. You get swivel and you get gauntlet for free. So put all of their loadout into Yoda. How does Yoda even?
What does Yoda do?
I think
Uh,
he's.
Nothing, literally nothing for the list besides giving it 2 force
I was
charges.
gonna
That's
say
it.
it refreshes force, but there's no other force there. Is that right? Or it
No.
doesn't refresh
Uh,
force, but they could use it.
it might give it a purple coordinate action. Let me double check that.
Yeah, let's take a look at the old Yoda. Why
Yeah,
spend
but the
all your
gauntlet
loadout
already
on this?
coordinates, doesn't it?
Red coordinates.
Red. Why not make it purple?
Why not
Like,
purple? After another friendly ship at range 0 to 2 fully executes a purple maneuver or performs a purple action, then you could give them that token. Okay.
None
But
of those
no,
other ships do. So it's literally
none of those.
just it's mainly 2 force
2 force.
charges and a purple coordinate.
I
Um,
mean, when you're reinforcing with Bo Katan on 2 force, like that's very tanky ship in the opening engagement.
I'm
And
gonna
what is
throw
Bo
this out
Katan's
there.
ability?
Her ability after you fully execute a maneuver, you may gain a deplete to choose an object in your front arc at range 1 to 2. If you do, another friendly ship may perform a lock action to lock that object. So you're reducing your offense to provide a better mod for a friend.
Unless you're blocking with Bo-Katan, you almost never use this ability.
It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
If you're
I
gonna
will
block and then
say
shoot like range 0, might as well. But for the
I
most
don't
part, you're not
knock
gonna do it.
force charges often, but I think if you want to go even better defense, C3PO crew, because you're gonna when you perform a calculate action, you get another one, so you're getting 2 force charges every turn as long as you can do an action.
Hmm.
Because you can still bump calculate because calculate's available on your action bar, so you can still bump and take double calc with C3PO. And then on top of that, while you defend, if you're calculating, you may reroll 1 defense die. The rerolling defense die on a gauntlet is absolutely nuts for its defensive profile. The problem
Yeah.
has always been paying 6 points for a gauntlet that will do nothing but average 3 die attack on offense.
Hmm.
That's the problem. It can never output enough damage to justify bringing it at 6 points. It is durable as all get up, but it cannot provide any better
Yeah.
offense than a 4 3-point ship can.
I saw somebody else in here, Andy Cam. It's very similar thought process. Took Luke, Gina, Braylon, and instead of 2 3-point ships, smashed them together into one big Ezra Bridger gauntlet with Notorious, Lando, Contraband, Night Brother, and Swivel are free. So this dude could be getting, in theory, could be getting like 2 evades and a focus. So potentially 3 evades during their Contraband and Night Brother turn. Um, but this is giving Notorious. We were talking about how like that Biggs like drawing aggro effect. Uh, I feel like this is doing the opposite though. That like people don't want to shoot that Ezra because of the Notorious, so are now forced to shoot the B wings.
Yeah, to be honest, it's probably what you should be shooting are the B wings and Luke anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
you probably need to shove Ezra in there to incentivize any shots going into him. But even then, like it's one of those same situations, and even worse to that regard to Bo-Katan. Ezra can be really durable. The Gauntlet platform can be extremely durable. This one not getting like well for me and the C3PO route the rerolls, but this one getting the evades from the Night Brother,
Mm-hmm.
potentially Lando. Ezra's ability to make his 1 force act like 2 or 3 with his ability while he's stressed. Throw Notorious on that makes people less wanting to shoot him, which means they're shooting the targets that probably actually need to hang around longer. This is all like general statement. You
Right.
could technically say in assault that it might be more valuable to keep those gauntlets alive and make less of incentive to shoot them.
Sure.
But because their offense isn't anywhere near as dangerous as Luke's or the other B wings, then it's not as dangerous to keep that around.
Right. And this Ezra, if you do shoot at it with that Notorious, and then they get a reroll, and you're down an agility because of the string, I think this Ezra would justify that 6 point price on just a single like 3 dice attack. But you need the Notorious to work for that. So it's kind of I like the idea of it, but I'm not sure if it really works in practice. Though Andy did get 3 wins with it. Lost to, guess what? 3 arcs, 2 arcs, and a C to miss out on cut. So that's probably a tale older than time these days. You know, it was all going well until you faced arcs and assault. uh, I think that's it. You said there was no separatist. I saw some scum, but there wasn't really
Not a
uh,
single separatist.
too
Is there
much
anything
craziness. A lot of
interesting?
things we've seen before. This Sarasu Dace salad. Still pretty impressive. Good showings for a lot of this. Um, Steve.
Oh, there was
Steve tried a fire
oh they
spell.
would. I mean, they went 2 and 3, but I know Niels is consistently chatting or had been consistently chatting in our GSP Discord. But Niels did tour. I don't know how you say that his last name. He's number ranked 25, but he brought a full Jedi list in Republic.
Oh,
So
wow.
see Anakin, Luminara, CLT, Mace, Shakti, Yoda, Ada just went full Force
So he's
users. Got
he's
brought the
doing
brought the Jedi Council.
yeah, he's doing the CLT spam, but these days it's Ada's instead.
Hmm.
Wow, Ada's with ion cannons as well, utilizing those
I would
custom
also like a
reservoirs.
3-die attack on my Ada.
Yeah, seems pretty good.
I agree.
Yoda out there patienceing his ion cannon, which I love. I love to see that patience, compassion on
Also
Yoda.
the R2C4, which I think like a lot of times these Adas want to take evades. And when it's
You
a
should
low
always be
initiative
taking
one,
evades.
yeah, when it's a low initiative one and you're not sure if they're gonna be looking at you or not, like Yoda, you don't like. There's a chance that Yoda doesn't get looked at, and if he doesn't get shot at, he's the last one to shoot. So you have the ability to weaponize that evade token to being
Yeah,
an eyeball conversion on offense.
right. Save yourself a little bit of force and just spend the
Yep.
evade token.
That you didn't have to because no one shot you or they didn't hit you
Right.
or you didn't roll blanks.
Another thing here is those heightened perceptions on those Adas or on the Aether sprites. So
Hmm.
now technically a low initiative list if you have the spare force around, which I think Yoda works with. Yoda can help you do the
That's
or
a good question.
I think
We'll
Yoda
find out.
works whenever you flip a token. As long as you flipped your force, he can flip it back. He can't
Yeah,
just give
it
you a
says after
force.
another friendly ship at 0 to 3 spends one or more force, you may spend one force. If you do, that ship recovers. So it just says spends. Doesn't There's no timing window.
Yeah. So Yoda could actually heighten up both of those, Luminar and Mace.
Yeah, Yoda actually makes the pool of four. I think that actually is very key for Luminara
Mm-hmm.
because Luminara's ability means, for people who don't recall, Luminar's ability, while a friendly ship at 0 to 2 defends, if it's not in the attacker's bullseye, you may spend a force charge. If you do, change a crit to a hit or a hit to an eyeball. Hit to an eyeball is a big one if they don't have a way to convert it back, because the defender would be modifying those dice first.
Mm-hmm.
If the usually difficulty with Luminara is if she wants to use the chassis ability, which is a very strong chassis ability, her force pool is now just one force and probably taking a focus for the turn. But now, when you have Yoda around, you have three more force to pull from to make Luminara's ability that much more effective for the entire list.
Yeah, that is true. Like the how what's Yoda's range actually? We don't normally see the Aether.
0 to 3 on the pilot.
Dang, and these Jedi are obviously spending force for repositioning, modifying dice, and of course the heightened perception, which is very powerful. So that's a crazy list. Uh, I don't know what to think about that. Um, you better be flying it well because if any of those get trapped,
Yep.
there's not
Niels
no
has been
amount of
a fan of Jedi in Republic for a long time and has generally steered towards playing those CLT or Bullseye type Jedi, even during these arc days.
yeah. Checking out their wins here. They lost against who would have guessed it? Triple arcs, and also
Go
Rich
figure.
Rich flying 4X and Y. So beefier, healthier list. Um, Being able to go, ship to ship with them. Um, so I love the list, but man, against today's beef, as Marcel put it, you're gonna take a lot of good flying. Awesome, awesome to see. Sounds like it was a great event. I'm really glad that they were able to get that grand tournament officially, as the season started June 1st, so they really jumped in on that right from the get-go. Day one of the season, they're playing in the grand tournament. So I'm very excited that it went well, and hopefully the rest of these grand tournaments can go as well as this one did. Then, what's the next one? I know Mike was talking about the Spanish one.
Yeah, apparently
was
that
out.
happened this past weekend too. We just became known of this, so we do not have time to cover it tonight, but maybe next week or the week after, depending on what kind of news we get next week of anything. Yeah. So that's another one to look at. Then we would go to our trusty schedule thing. Let me look at the link back to the transmission from AMG. Let's see. Canada's first one is in July.
Ooh, you don't say.
UK's next one's in July. They just had that one. US's first one is also in July.
Okay.
Spain, yep, the first, June 1st. Okay.
Okay.
The next one, Ireland, has one in June 22nd. Oh, that's Marvel Crisis Protocol. Never mind.
We will not be covering that.
Yep. Sorry for any Marvel Crisis Protocol fans, but this
Hulk smashes. That's all I know. That's the summary.
Hulk smashes, and I know Ryan Farmer likes to play the Spidey crew.
Yeah. So, exciting stuff. We'll still have some more in June, and then looks like really ramping up in July for events.
For sure.
Remember, in August, we are looking to do 2 different grand tournaments here at Gold Squadron. The one in Salt Lake and the Nova one. More details on that coming soon. So be looking forward to those weekends for some in-person streaming of them. Should be very exciting. But I think for now, we'll call it there. Unless I missed anything, any last minute things before we get out of here.
All good for me.
All right, I'm excited. I'm getting that competitive itch again for these tournaments. So, for everybody here at Gold Squadron, stay safe, stay smart. Gold Squadron out.
Thank you to ISO, Danko, Baffle, Trojan, Prophet, Shadow, Tycho, Spice, Raider, Lancer, Fallen, Row 6, 626, Chief, and J List, our Grand Admiral patrons. And all of our Gold Squadron patrons and community members, thank you for your support. Gold Squadron out.